Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome entrepreneur and author Sheila Vaske. So, welcome, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, I would like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you share with us how your entrepreneurial journey started?
That's a great question. I guess you could say since I was in high school, I just had lots of visions and
Yes.
ideas myself. As a teenager, I worked in the restaurant industry. So when I was 23, I decided I wanted to, Friends was a big show back then, and coffee houses. And I really
Yes.
wanted a coffee house. That didn't happen. And needless to say, I ended up owning a New York style restaurant and deli in Providence, Rhode Island. I did that for about 5 years.
Oh, wonderful. Amazing.
Thank you.
So you were a former CEO of Vienza, the inspirational brand of jewelry and accessories. So do
Yeah.
you believe that this helped you as an entrepreneur? And did this give you an advantage when you decided to start your entrepreneurial journey?
100%. So I will say it was my last endeavor. I know after the restaurant, I did a catering company, I worked in sales, I did many, many things, real
Yes.
estate. All of those skills obviously go into, you learn from each and every one of them. But Vienza was truly, I have to say, something I really gave birth to, from the concept to the designs to the creation. I did the marketing. I learned every aspect of the business, to the business aspect, manufacturing, packaging, you name it. Very divinely guided to me. So I felt like that was my purpose. That was my mission. God had me on this journey, and I just sort of followed the signs. And I learned so much through that journey that when that stopped, I was sort of at a loss, but it was then that I realized this was the test. That was the test of everything I really needed to learn and experience in order to move into this next chapter.
Amazing. So what would you say have been some of your biggest lessons and learnings within your career? And maybe there's multiple, but what really stands out for you?
Well, yeah, there are multiple for sure. One of them is things don't happen overnight, obviously.
Yeah.
And trusting the process, I think, from conception and the confidence, I think more than anything else, it taught me confidence more than anything else. And I mean, every failure I don't look at as a failure. I really, really do look at it as a lesson. And I think if you can look at it in that regard, it really helps you into the next phase of what you're doing, because those failures come for reasons and they teach you a lot of things. So having that in mind, it really has opened and expanded my mind on how to proceed on this next path.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are also a best-selling author. So can you share with us more about your journey as an author? And was this an organic process for you, or was it a challenge? And can you share with us more about this best-selling magazine for those who don't know?
Absolutely. Well, okay, so where do we begin? So I was published in 3 best-selling magazines when I had the company Vienza. They're called Where Women Create, and then she has different divisions of those. That happened when I was launching. I was invited by HSN to go to what they called an American Dreams Academy. And the woman that owns that magazine was going to select one woman out of that group to be featured in that magazine.
Oh,
Needless to
wow.
say, I was fortunate enough to be that woman, and it led to 2 more publications in that particular magazine. So that was really awesome, and it highlighted the company and my experience and my journey there. I had
Yes.
always wanted to write a book my whole life. I'd probably say 18 to 20 years. And it's funny because my kids just gave a speech during the book launch last week of the new book. And one of the things they said is, my mom always said, well, this is just another chapter in my book. So I've always said I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have the confidence to do so. I didn't really consider myself to be an author. And was my story really even something people wanted to hear? then it was divinely guided to me once again, where a friend of mine met a woman at a conference, and he said, Sheila, because I at that time was kind of like, where am I going? What am I going to do? I would really love to speak and inspire others, because that's what the jewelry brand was all about. But I just didn't know what to do. So he had met this woman that spoke at this conference, and her name was Jen Koffel, and she was a multi best-selling author and entrepreneur herself and business coach. So he said, Sheila, you've really got to meet this woman. And needless to say, we connected via Zoom one day. And she's like, well, what are you doing right now? And I was sort of at my loss and told her my story a bit. And she said, you really have a story to tell. And it was then that the light bulb went off. So she eventually invited me to be in a collaboration book that was called Voices of Truth, Engaging Speakers, Voices of Truth. And it was 22 authors that shared their story in each chapter. So as I was writing that chapter was when I realized I do have a story to tell. And as much as I was appreciative and grateful for this opportunity to become a best-selling author on Amazon for that, I had the confidence within me to say, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith, tell my story, and share my voice and my purpose and write my own book. And that is when I created Powerful Mind, Powerful Soul. And
That's
then
amazing.
it went beyond the book. Yeah.
So a big part of your focus is on women and empowerment. This covers physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of people's life, which is a vital part of our daily lives. And there's no better time to talk about this, especially after coming out of a pandemic. So can you share with us how the pandemic affected you personally and professionally? And can you give us any examples?
100%. Great question.
Thank you.
So first I want to say that I'm all for women empowerment, but really this message is for everybody. I believe that men are a vital part of our society, I should say. And I don't ever want to disclude them, because I think that we've made it become more of a women empowerment thing, where I believe women can do any and all things, but I also believe a man has a role as well. And I think where we're shifting, we need to kind of bring back that masculinity as well. So I want to make sure I emphasize that. I'm for empowerment for all. But the pandemic really did a number on me for multiple reasons.
Yes.
One of which was I lost the company Vienza. And that to me was the very first time in my life where I experienced true grief. I had a lot of tragic things in my life happen to me, but always was able to block it out, not maybe, I guess, deal with it.
Yeah.
And that to me was like losing a birth of a child, because it was like so divinely guided. I was so confused as to why and how it could happen, that I fell into a very, very dark space. I gave up my faith. I was angry at God. I was angry at the world. And I was like, I didn't really know what my purpose was anymore. Like, where and what am I supposed to do now? Which got me pretty sick, actually. And it was then, as I healed myself again, that I realized, the pandemic changed a lot of things for people.
Yeah.
And it really made me very aware that this message has got to go out to everybody, especially even our younger generation. They're my heart and soul.
So talking about that, I want to expand on leadership, or the lack of leadership, from a global and entrepreneurial perspective. So what do you believe needs to change the narrative? And what do you believe makes your leadership skills different? And can you give us any examples?
Sure. Well, one of the things I was really on a mission on for the last 5 years was implementing mindfulness in classrooms as a mandatory part of their curriculums. I just felt, imagine a world where children started mindfulness within kindergarten all the way through, college and 12th grade. Let's face it, these kids, most of them, not everybody comes from this perfect little family. We all have issues and we all have problems. And sometimes their only escape is going to school. And I tried, I worked with politicians, I worked with the school board. I did everything in my power to implement this. And it was like, no, everybody would be like, yeah, it's great, but it went nowhere. It's like, we just can't do that. You know, you just have to start at one school and what have you. And that's when I realized if we empower people as young adults and change how they deal with life, we won't be able to brainwash them and control them and do what it is that's happening in the world today. You know, they would actually know what their intuition is. They would actually know how to trust that and become their best selves without being robots. And I feel like we really fell into this society of leadership is gone. So we as the people and we as individuals, or I want to say like pathfinders, have to spread this voice individually and these messages on an individual level and skip the whole route of leadership and do it on our own.
Yeah, exactly.
Organically. Yeah.
Yeah. So your passion is educating individuals and supporting people to find their power, and you cover, as mentioned above, mental, physical, and spiritual, as well as financial. So can
Mhm.
you give us some examples and elaborate on this for us and give us some examples of how your clients have thrived and what makes you different?
It's really basic. It's just
Yeah,
things that people don't put into practice on a daily basis.
yeah,
So I think we all really know the basics, but really practicing them on a daily basis, being consistent is really what is key. I know that for me, I had this limitation on my life. You know, it was subconscious, but I didn't think I was deserving of making a certain amount of money. It was like my limit was X. And beyond that, it was almost like I sabotaged myself on making any more. So when I discovered that I'm better than this and I can make more than this and I'm more valuable than this, that's what everybody else needs to understand and realize too. Where do your talents lie? Where's your gift? And take that gift and that talent and run with it, because really the sky's the limit and there's enough abundance out there for everybody. But it's truly kind of getting to know you and self-reflecting. What are you doing wrong? What are the patterns that you're continuously seeing to happen in your own life, and allowing you to kind of not judge yourself, but self-reflect on that and change those patterns.
yeah, absolutely. So within that, what would you say some of your career highlights have been? And again, you might have multiple, but is there anything that particularly stands out for you?
Well, for one, I just think I'm a super manifester. So
Yes.
when I really believe in something and I can see it in my mind, I believe it can happen. I'll declare it, decree it, write it, believe it, pray on it. I also think that when you are in tuned and aligned with your own being and your soul, your God, your universe, whatever that may be for you, you can open so many doors for yourself. So my highlights have been really manifesting the things that I want. Like I remember when I had the jewelry business, one of those examples would be I want to be on HSN or on the shopping network. And I went one day and took a selfie in front of it. And it wasn't easy and it took some time, but you know, here we were 3 years later and there I was. But I would visualize that daily. Like, what's it going to feel like being on TV? What will I wear? What will I say? How will I feel? And so that was one. Being highlighted in the magazines was such an honor to do that. And honestly, right now, I guess I could say that I feel the most empowered than I've ever felt before. I just feel a calling and a passion, and I believe nothing can stand in my way at this point. And I believe like just the book wasn't enough. So then I'm like, okay, so how much more can we do, like, to get people to practice this? And I created the deck of cards and then the journal, and it's like, this is an experience. So there are so many wonderful tools out there, but I would say this has probably been my biggest achievement I've created so far in my life.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're also a mom of two daughters. Can you share with us how, as a mom and an entrepreneur, do you balance work and family time?
That is always the challenge. That's a great question. It was never easy. It still isn't today, I must admit. But what I ended up doing many, many years ago was I would wake up an hour early before they did. And
Yes.
yes, I lost another hour of sleep. However, I gained a different view on how my day would go. Now, whether that would have been writing or journaling or praying or going for a run because I loved to run. To me, that gave me the patience and the endorphins, I guess you can say, to set the tone for my day and be more patient. I've learned a lot. Like a lot of times my kids would say to me, you know, Mom, you're here, but you're not present. And
Yeah.
it was really like, because I'm so distracted with all the things that I'm trying to accomplish. And that really hit hard too. And now, if you look at my daily list, it'll be like 7:30 is this, 7:45 you do this, 8:15 is this. For me, the only way to kind of keep control and keep balance of how I'm going to go about my day, allotting that time. Like my children are going to be here at this time, I'm present for that hour, that 2 hours. It is a struggle and it's not going to be perfect every day, but the more you do it, I think the more you start to get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did briefly touch on it earlier, but I'd like to go back to this. Is mental health, depression, and anxiety is at an all-time high, and the pandemic turned our worlds inside out and upside down. And this has obviously been amplified now more than ever, and these are serious challenges. So do you believe that there is enough being done to address this, or do you believe there is still a massive stigma around these issues? And can you share with us more about what you are doing to support people through this in your work?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm just starting to scratch the surface, if I'm being honest. I think that this experience is the beginning of what is to come to change that. No, I don't think enough's being done whatsoever for these children. I think anxiety, depression, suicides are at an all-time high that no one really is speaking about. I believe that locking children up and making them wear masks and hiding their face, and we
Yeah,
have we have literally stolen their childhood. We've
yeah, it's
also,
terrible.
yes, it's awful, and I'm extremely passionate about this. I also believe that electronics have stolen our children as well. When we were born with five senses, let's face it. And if
Yeah,
our kids in this younger generation uses one or two of them, we're lucky. They basically stare at a screen all day long and it tells them what to do, who to be, put a filter on it. They don't know how to communicate anymore, and they don't even know what intuition is. So
no,
how can we expect these poor children, right? And it's not their fault. It's
no,
ours. You know,
yeah,
it's society's and our leadership that has stripped them from living. I mean, I remember being a child and we didn't have GPSs, or, we
no,
used
we
them
had printed maps.
and you looked at a map and someone gave you directions and you went, and you didn't have cell phones and anybody tracking you for anything. And we also didn't have people wanting to keep their kids indoors because they're so scared, because social media is made everything available to predators. So I mean, we just live in a different world, and I really just want to change these children to learn to think for themselves and discover who they really are.
Yeah,
And I believe that this experience could be shared with youth groups. It can be shared in workshops. I believe if this would get passed on, I believe one person can change 3 to 5 lives a week just by being kind and sharing and spreading light everywhere you go. If that
yeah,
1 to 5 people spread that light and love everywhere they go and change 3 to 5 lives a week, it's a ripple effect. And there you go. I mean, we can change the world and we can change all of this by just organically bringing it out aware and using our voices and sharing these tools and experiences for these kids to do so. And I think parents are struggling. My kid doesn't want to learn how to drive. My kid doesn't come out of his room. They don't know how to talk in society, and they have an entitlement issue. Well, unfortunately, that's the generation they've been raised in. So how
yeah,
do we do that, right? And it has to start
absolutely.
at home. Yeah.
So that leads me to the final question. What are the three key pieces of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs looking to start their own business? And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
That's a great question. Okay, well, if I were going to give advice to anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, I think you need to decipher whether or not that is something you are even capable of, because it is not an easy life.
No.
It all sounds great and sounds wonderful, but one of the key factors is get very clear on what your purpose and your mission is. Be very clear. Be ready to fail. many times. Be very patient. Be very patient. Success does not happen overnight. I think others perceive entrepreneurs' success when they've reached it. They don't
Yes.
see the journey that it took to get there. And some people are capable of handling that, and some people are not. So I think once you know who and what you're capable of, you can get a little more clear on, is this something maybe I want to do with somebody else, or maybe work for a company that has this, or do I want to create this vision? I think that it's really about patience, because everything is about timing and it's about failures. And you think you've got the greatest thing since sliced bread and it just slaps you in the face, and you got to be able to take that. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, be ready to make the mistakes, but learn the lessons from them. I think that's really important, and have a lot of patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if I wanted to leave a legacy, truly, I don't know if it's a legacy I want to live. I just want to be the change, and I just want people to discover who they are and what their potential is. I want to change the trajectory of one of hatred and divide on this planet right now into one of love and light and peace, respect and kindness. I
Yeah.
think we can do that.
Yeah, amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
Sure. Well, I would say start with my website first. You can either go to SheilaVaske.com or PowerfulMindPowerfulSoul.com. They'll take you to the same place. There we have the tools, we have the experience. You can buy all the products individually, which would include the books, a journal, the deck of cards. You can buy a bundle. Then there's also be putting up there a lot of my podcasts. I would love to speak. So if anyone would like to have me speak or be a guest on their podcast, be happy to do that. I think that we should start workshops, and that's another thing I'm working on. And as far as platforms, I must say I'm creating some new platforms right now under different names. I sort of took myself off of social media for a really long time, and knowing that I can't reach all the audiences that I need to, I've got to get myself back on there. So that's in the works. And I would love to do virtual workshops and just share the voice, the mission, the purpose with as many people as we can. So you can get in touch with me there. There's a lot of things going on there, and we are just in the beginning stages. So there's a lot of ideas and a lot of growth and a lot of potential. But like I said, as an entrepreneur, it's one thing at a time, right? So start somewhere and then grow it to the next level. But right now, podcasts like you having me on, Karen, is amazing. That's going to reach your audience, and so on and so on. So, I'm a big believer in organically growing this. But to get a hold of me or anything else, just go straight to the websites. You can directly message us there.
Well, thank you so much. And hopefully we can have you back in the future to see where you are on your journey.
I would love that. That would be wonderful.